I was trying to find my way in a world that at the end of the day wasn't me. And I was trying to fit in because in my head I had this idea, I was born into this life, I need to conform to it. When actually I took a step back and I thought, well, actually at the end of the day, this isn't making me happy. What makes me happy is what I said, being in the sea and, raising awareness and doing these things. I was doing these things before I even applied for Miss England. I'm just lucky, I feel very lucky that I've had the opportunity to be able to have a platform now to spread this voice. But I wanted to do that anyway, and I knew that I couldn't have done that if I'd stayed in this life.
Hi Milla.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Milla Magee.
Milla Magee.
That is a strong name.
Oh, thank you.
I really love it. I feel like it's one of those names that's going to be really well known.
Oh.
It's going to be a household name.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. Yeah, I think, people used to say, oh, well, that's a tribute to my mother and father.
Yeah.
Magee is the way that there's two ways of spelling it. Mm-hmm. So there's the Irish way and the Scottish way. My way is the Irish way.
Okay.
So I'm Magee, and my grandfather, he is from Belfast in Ireland.
Okay, so that's your sort of background.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And then Milla is Eastern European.
Yeah.
Named.
So we just literally before rolling spoke about this, which I have to bring up.
Of course.
So you're named after Milla, I can't pronounce the surname, I think it's Jovovich.
Yeah. I think. Don't hold me to that though.
Yes. From my favourite film, and also your mum's favourite film, The Fifth Element.
Yes, that's right.
So we've just bonded on The Fifth Element. So just putting that out there, everybody. Yeah. Go watch it if you haven't.
Disclaimer.
I'd just like to kind of start with, I've learned so much about you these past few weeks. But there might be some people out there that still don't know enough. So it'd be great for you just to start off by describing yourself and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Milla. I am a sponsored surfer and beach lifeguard living in Newquay. I am originally from London and grew up in the centre of London and born into quite a different lifestyle than the one that I've created now. But at the age of 15, I moved down to Newquay to pursue my love for surfing, and from that have created over the years getting quite a basis through that. So started off with just my love for the water, really. The water's always been my place that I've gone back to as my way of solace, and my love for that started when I lived in London and I was swimming, and then my mum would take me down to Newquay just on holidays, and then my love for surfing grew then, and what turned into a little girl's dream, only trying to pursue surfing, then turned out being a lifestyle, because I made that decision to move down to Newquay and have been featured in numerous surfing magazines around locally, supporting local brands, and that's a huge thing that I want to try and be a representative for, is that it doesn't matter where you are, in whether it's by the coast or inland, whatever you feel like is only just a dream, it is achievable for you too, and I want to be a representative for that.
Amazing. So your mum and dad, so I have to mention, so they run quite, or have in the past as well, run quite successful businesses in London. So you grew up in London in that kind of environment where it was quite fast-paced, I'm imagining.
Correct, yes.
And then, so you and your family made that decision to move to Newquay, so you kind of now go between this beautiful kind of seaside coastal life to then that what you've described as like concrete jungle kind of city. So you have that balance of both, which is great,
that fast-paced way of living. So I was born into quite a fast-paced lifestyle, really. So my dad owns bars and restaurants around central London, and my mum's in the music industry, and being born into quite a, like I said before, fast-paced industries, separate of their own, very, well known for their own reasonings. That has created my bubbly personality, which I'm grateful for, as you can probably tell. I can talk for England.
Carry on.
So I'm grateful for that. But I'm grateful for the life that I was born into, and I'm always grateful for the opportunities that I've had because of my parents, but I wanted to create something for myself. I wanted to leave an imprint of what Milla Magee is, not Milla Magee because of what she was born into, if that makes sense. You know, when you hear my name, I want to be known for the life that I created, which is becoming a beach lifeguard and becoming a surfer. And then whatever you realise after, that just comes as a extension of that, if that makes sense, not because of. And I think being born into that lifestyle, it was very fast paced. And when I was living in London and I got to the age of 15, that's when I began to realise that I was struggling quite a lot with my mental health. And like I said before, the water has always been my way of turning back to for some solace and my time, if that makes sense. So having the opportunity to go down to Newquay and create that life for myself, the life that I lived in London is the life that I was born into, and I'm so grateful for that, and still feel very lucky that I can still have that balance with my father still living in London. But the life that I've got in Cornwall is the life that I chose for myself, and it's the life that I created. And from that, over the years, like I said, I've been featured in numerous surfing magazines, being able to be a representative to build up the local community, whether that's brands or being a representative for healthy living. You know, I don't drink, I don't smoke, and I've never touched a drug. And the industries that my parents were in, you could probably imagine, the wild life that was lived. And I want to... ironically, I find there's quite a lot of... I don't want to say... Well, actually, yeah, quite a lot. Ironically, I find that there is quite a lot of judgment on us people who want to live that healthy, clean living.
Yeah.
And I want to be a representative that, for a few things, really. I call it the 3 E's. I want to empower, encourage, and educate. I want to empower women into... Surfing is a very male-dominated sport, and I want to be a representative for women that it doesn't matter if your career or your sport is male-dominated, you can achieve it too. I want to encourage the younger generation that it doesn't matter what you're going through. Well, it obviously does matter, but whatever you're going through doesn't define you. Mm-hmm. And to educate people on simple things like water and beach safety, and also educate people on the pollution that is happening in our oceans and the environmental issues. Mm. I am currently representing Newquay in the current Miss England pageant, and which I'm very honoured to...
I can't wait to get into all of that with you, because that's something that I've not been... I don't think a lot of people in the UK especially are fully kind of aware of, or I think there's so much to be kind of said for pageants and like the stereotypes that go with it, but what you're trying to do is kind of flip that narrative.
Thank you. Yes.
And that's what I think this era is all about, because we're, as a society now, I think we're just becoming way more conscious of things and aware. So
it's the Great Reset, right? And it's about waking up and being more conscious and being more aware. And I think having this opportunity to not only be a represent the local community in Newquay, but to hopefully use this as a voice to share those things that I previously said about using this as an opportunity to... I chose to... Surfing is my sport. That was my way, because the water's been my way of solace. But it doesn't matter if it's surfing, tennis, or whatever you choose, that you find solace in. You can, give yourself that time, go for your goals, and it's not out of reach. And I think being a representation for women in a very male-dominated sport is something that I really want to get across, because there is a lot of... there is a stereotype that these pageants are bracketed into, and I want to be a representative that it's flipping that narrative. It's beauty with a purpose. I want to pay homage to and respect to the tradition that goes with those beauty pageants, which is obviously the beauty side, but it's beauty with a purpose, and that is a charity that that I will be supporting in Miss England, as well as Papyrus and Surfers Against Sewage. And beauty with a purpose really is what it's titled. It's beauty, but what is your ability to... What is beauty at the end of the day? It's not just physical, stereotypical beauty on the outside. It's beauty from within. What are you going to do to raise awareness, not only for the benefit of our country, but for our planet? And using that as an opportunity to educate others. And I think that's really empowering, as well as Papyrus, which is a charity on prevention of young suicide. And Surfers Against Sewage, who's a charity that help keep our beaches clean in the protection of our marine life, which is a huge part of, a huge charity to me as being a surfer. Firsthand, I see the ocean pollution that is happening, and I became a beach lifeguard because I started off as a surf instructor because I wanted to, the same reason why I fell in love with surfing, I wanted to give that back to... Not only I've taught people from young and old. I think the oldest person that I've taught is 73. He'd never surfed before.
My poor dad finds it hard to walk to the shop, let alone surf. Bless him.
He always loved the water, always wanted to give it a go, always been putting it off. And then I encouraged him to just go for it.
That must be so fulfilling for you to see that somebody's just putting themselves out there.
Those little moments, it's those sit back moments when you're like, okay, this is why
this is why I'm doing
it. And going to as well, also that fulfilling moment of being able to see the younger generation, and encourage them into the sport as well. I was that kid, and seeing that little snippet of myself, I guess, in that little person, and being able to see their love for it is why I did it. And being a surfer as well, firsthand, I have witnessed firsthand in the water the ocean pollution that is happening, and I really do want to take a time to support Surfers Against Sewage because they are run by ocean activists who help keep our beaches clean in the protection of our marine life. But there's so many things that we don't realise about ocean pollution. Being out back in the surf, sat on a board, and I've been sat next to a pile of sewage.
Can't be nearer than you, yeah.
So that was my glimmer in that moment of, right, something needs to change, something needs to flip. And I think I wanted to use the platform that I've managed to create for myself through surfing, but use it for good, and use it to raise this awareness and give people the education and spread the word, because I think it needs to be recognised. There over 12. It's estimated that over 12 million tonnes of ocean, over 12 pollution is plummeted. Plastic is plummeted into the ocean, and the snowball effect that has on the marine life, and the people that is the influx of people that come down to these local towns in summer is immense. And it's people waking up and realising the little simple things that we can implicate into our daily life to make a bigger impact on the benefit of our planet in the future.
It's amazing that you're thinking that way already, that you're kind of using, like you said, your platform for good. And it's lovely that the causes that you're backing, like representing, are amazing. And it is that thing of empowering people to bring what they can to the table, no matter what they're doing. It doesn't have to be something so big, but it could be something small, like at work or even at home. Just bringing what you can to the table to empower and encourage people.
It's an honour to be able to represent Newquay in this pageant, and which is such a beautiful town in itself, but to be able to use it to represent what actually is going on. A lot of people, like I said before, stereotype these pageants and put it into a certain demographic, when I think it's really important to realise that it's not just that, it is beauty with a purpose.
Yeah.
It is, you know, I can't stress enough, it's the beauty from within, whatever you're going to do. When I think of Miss England, I think of someone who's going to be a representative for our country. Now, I have my ideas of of what I would want to represent my country. Someone who is going to raise awareness, someone who is going to do some good for not just the communities and the, you know, that you're supporting, but for the country, and give back. You know, you've got to think that pageant is one day.
So tell us a bit more about Miss England then. So let's just start a little bit from the beginning, because my limited knowledge of pageants goes back to probably the film Miss Congeniality, probably like so many other people. And even then, I think that even though it's quite an old film now, but they were kind of battling the stereotypes even with that film, I think,
I totally agree.
Which I really appreciated. But can you tell us a bit more about the pageant industry in the UK? Because it's very much, I feel, and I could be wrong, but like I feel like it's very a US thing, where you think straight away, you think about the US and you think of all these pageants that they run over there. But here, what's the kind of process, and how did you get into like the running for Miss England?
I applied for Miss England because I really wanted to take away from the stereotype that that the Miss England pageant is bracketed into. It's taking away from that narrative of what we hold on beauty pageants. It's, you know, empowering women. You know, there's the women that have entered into this pageant, everyone brings an element of their own. You know, the reigning Miss England at the moment, she is encouraging STEM engineering, and she has a master's in STEM engineering and is empowering women into that career, which I think is so empowering. And I want to be the first surfer and beach lifeguard to represent in Miss England and take the crown as Miss England, to be the first lifeguard and represent to my community in the surfing world that you can do that too. It doesn't matter if something is male dominated, you can still achieve your goals. And it's not just about the physical beauty that we see on the outside, it's from what is within.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the time pageants that is the stereotype, isn't it? It's that of just, oh, what does she look like? How's her hair? Or what does her body look like?
Yeah.
And I think
it's completely not about that.
Changing.
And throughout this whole, I think I can't express that enough. It really is. And I wanted to be a part of that voice, and I wanted to be a part of that reset, I guess, in that way. Like I said before, it's that, you know, being that awareness and being more conscious, and I wanted to be a part of that. And so I did apply, and I was the first wild card to be fast tracked to the semi-finals.
Amazing.
And
congratulations.
So yes, it has been a very exciting journey, and I'm really enjoying it. And like I said, even though I'm finding it very exciting, I'm really finding it exciting learning more about the other women that are also in the competition. You know, there's lawyers, there's nurses, there's paramedics, and it
must be a great opportunity to connect with other women.
Yeah.
But like what you're saying is just all strong, really like, you know, strong-minded and fully equipped.
This is it. And it's, like you said before, obviously there is this demographic that it does fall into, very Americanized or very on the surface, because it is a beauty pageant. But when you actually look behind the sheet of what it is that beauty with a purpose and raising that awareness. I know I keep on repeating myself, but I can't express it enough. And it's about empowerment.
Yeah, well, your 3 E's are basically what a platform is all about. Because I think everyone that has a certain, even this podcast, that is exactly what I would want to achieve as well.
Oh, thank you.
And I'd love to, I definitely want to touch on soon on the other things that you're going to be kind of representing, which is what you've touched on already on environmental and ocean care and coastline care as well. But kind of taking a quick step back, so with some of your mental health struggles as well, because I think telling your story will also, empower people or encourage them to come forward with theirs too, and look inwards.
Yeah.
So with your family, so you've mentioned that, you know, you grew up in London and you kind of you were already part of this kind of successful, fast-paced environment, family. Do you think that it was partly to do with figuring out your own identity then? Was it like a, who am I? And then that kind of drove you, but then maybe that also kind of lent itself to some of your struggles 100%.
As well? 100%. I think I was... Growing up, it's hard for all of us, right, at a certain age where we're trying to find ourselves and this and that. And like I said, I'm always grateful for the life that I had and still have, and what my parents have given to me and provided for. I'm so grateful for that. But it doesn't mean that it's not still a struggle, right? And I was born into this world, like you said, that is very fast-paced and, you know, surrounded by people that are succeeding in what they're doing. But I always felt like an outsider. I went to an all-girls private school when I lived in London, and I was always that nature kid. I just always wanted to be climbing in trees or surfing in the sea or in the pool swimming, you know. That's what I wanted to do. And at a time when, you know, we're growing up and trying to find ourselves, a lot of the girls at that time were trying to source things that I already was born into a world of, if that makes sense. So, which is totally understandable. I get that, you know, trying to source out parties or, you know, these things. And
we always want what we don't have, basically.
I think that's exactly it. That's so true. I wanted a lifestyle that I didn't have, and I never felt like I needed to outwardly source those things just because I was born into a world. I mean, I grew up in my dad's restaurant, so the routine was home, school, restaurant, home. Like, so I've always followed my parents, my family, and my best friends. I just want to get that across as well. I've always been a very home girl. And I just never felt like I fitted in, if that makes sense. I think that's where it comes from. And I think it's important, and I want to get across that it's okay to be vulnerable. I want to be that role model for whether it's younger generations or people now in the current generations we have. I want them to listen to my story, and if you can relate or take snippets of what I've done to help or what I've been through, and that can help you, I want to be that voice for that. I want to be that role model that I wish I had at that time, and that voice, because what you're going through doesn't define you. And I felt like at that time I was competing in a world, well, not competing, but I was trying to find my way in a world that at the end of the day wasn't me. And I was trying to fit in because in my head I had this idea, I was born into this life, I need to conform to it. When actually I took a step back and I thought, well, actually, at the end of the day, this isn't making me happy. What makes me happy is what I said, being in the sea and, you know, raising awareness and doing these things. You know, I was doing these things before I even applied for Miss England. I'm just lucky, and I feel very lucky that I've had the opportunity to be able to have a platform now to spread this voice. But I wanted to do that anyway, and I knew that I couldn't have done that if I'd stayed in this life. And so by taking myself away and actually realising I'm in this vulnerable state, rather than conforming to it and living a life that I think I'm going to get dragged into where I'm not doing what we're all put on this planet, I believe, to do something in, like what you're doing with this podcast is amazing. And, you know, we've all got our own little niches. And it's okay to step away from what we think that we have to conform to have the benefit of us at the end of the day.
Yeah, there's so much to be said for that. I think that's really, that's something that's kind of almost like a little epiphany that I'm having right now, because it's kind of you, and even at a young age that you already figured that out, because I think you're right. I think we do get kind of plonked into our situation. Obviously we're born into it, and a lot of the time, like you said, no one has that kind of control over what we're going to be facing when we're young. But yeah, it's just we kind of go with it, and we're going against the grain sometimes, whereas sometimes it could just be a case of moving somewhere else, or not as drastic as that, but just one little change that can just be like, this isn't like fitting right now.
That's the thing. I'm not all of a sudden expecting people to pack their bags and leave London and move to Cornwall like I did.
Hawaii.
Move to Hawaii. Your dreams and your solution, everything's solved.
Yeah. Your problems usually go with you.
That's not what I'm saying at all. It's it's implicating little things for ourselves, and we're on. It's us at the end of the day. This is your journey. This is your life. And if I can help encourage, going back to the E's, the 3 E's are there to really have the 3 E's end up having a positive evolution of our self-awareness, but also our planet. And if our planet isn't healthy and safe, we're not healthy and safe. And it really goes back to that. We're all interlinked, and we get influxed with things that we think we need to be doing, or being told what we need to do, to say, to blah blah blah. What do you want to say? What do you want to do? And that is the most important, because this is your journey, and you can still incorporate that. Like I said, I'm not all of a sudden saying for you to pack up your bags and move to Cornwall, Hawaii. That's not going to solve your problems, but there is things you can do, like adding simple things. Like a thing that I do every morning is I expose the benefits of cold water exposure is on our mental and physical health is abundant. Adding that doesn't have to be by the coast. Going to your lake, going to your swimming pool. Like I said, if it's not water related, go and do your tennis class. Give yourself that time back that you give to others and your work and your community. Give yourself that time back, and remember to say the things to others that you would say to yourself what you would say to others. Sorry.
Yes, yeah. I think that's where a lot of the mental health struggles stem from. They stem from that part of you that's just thinking something's not right, but you're just still going ahead with it. It's kind of like that red flag thing where even in relationships you're like, there's a red flag just flying and you're like, it's fine, everything's fine. So it can kind of like...
I'm guilty of that. I think we're all guilty of that.
Can translate across so many things. But yeah, it's... I think that's... So what kind of mental health struggles did you kind of have to face, and how did you overcome some of them?
So I know...
apart from moving away to the coast.
So I know a lot of people might think, because I was 15, and I know people might think, she's young, but I think it doesn't matter what age or, whatever you're going through or whatever time in your life, it is still relevant, and relevance is such an important thing. It's okay what you're going through. It's okay to be vulnerable. You're not alone. And I think that was what I was experiencing at that time. At a time when I was trying to not only find myself, I wasn't... It's like you said before, I wasn't saying or doing the right... giving myself that time back, because I was just trying to conform into a world that at the end of the day, at that time... Only at that time. Now I'm older and, I'm more, I don't necessarily struggle with those same issues that I did have. I can, be more... I'm more aware of it, if that makes sense. But at that time, I just didn't want to be a part of it. It felt too overwhelming. I was going through a time where I just felt like I was trying to conform in a world that I didn't belong in. And I felt like a real outsider. I felt like I can't describe it other than...
But you were young as well. Yeah. So I think when you're actually like going through not only probably hormonal changes, but just,
exactly.
all of that, as well as, the extra added pressure as well.
I think that's the word that I was trying to find before, is that pressure.
The pressure,
and the overwhelm.
But that comes a lot with living in a city, I think. And I know that might be controversial or whatever, and I know not everyone can go and move and are able to do that. But I find that in this country, we are all about work, or especially in the bigger cities and surrounding areas. It's a really interesting topic on like burnout and things like that. Yeah. But I find that when I speak to people that do live more even in the countryside or nearer to nature, more connected with nature. And like you said, you're obviously so connected to the sea and the coast, that they just have this different idea of life and this different outlook.
I think it doesn't, like I said before, I think what I'm trying to be a representative of and for is that whether you're by the coast or inland, it's still accessible to you. At that time, I was, if you're going through the same as what I went through, I didn't think it was accessible. But adding things into your routine, like cold water exposure, or go for a walk in the park, give yourself that time, because nature and the water is a true healer. I do believe that. Exposing our bodies to those extreme temperatures for those few minutes is abundant. And if you haven't guessed already, I can talk for England, and I have quite an overactive mind, so I've struggled with meditation in the past. And I think that was also what I was going through at that time and at that age. I was really, like you said before, hormonal, imbalances, also trying to find myself, but also not really knowing and navigating my way through life in a world that was already quite extreme, if that makes sense. So it did feel quite overwhelming, and it just took me a minute to go, whoa, I need to breathe for a second.
We don't often take that pause,
and I think every morning when I do the cold water exposure, I get it's a remembrance of that feeling of, okay, I'm here to take a minute and a breathe. There's nothing on my mind for those 3 minutes. You're present, you're focusing on your breath, and there is nothing more than just being present in that moment. And I think that is so important as well, giving ourselves that time back to be present in the moment for our self-evolution.
I was listening to another podcast actually recently about burnout and about that, taking it that time. And in this busy world that we live in, it's hard to tell people, if you've got like a little newborn baby, or if you've got kids, or it's so difficult to, be in that. Everyone's got a different situation basically, but you have got, you've got 5 minutes somewhere to just take those deep breaths or something.
That's it.
The interesting thing that I learned about the burnout as well was it was something that this lady that was talking, she was a doctor, and she kind of went back to like the caveman times. And I really find it interesting when they do that, when they go back to that, because that is, where we've sort of originated
going
from.
Going back to our roots, right?
Exactly. And like the physiological ways that we are, and even the biological like reactions and things that how we respond. And like any kind of trauma or struggle that we go through, we need rest. We need respite after that, like straight after that. But what tends to happen, definitely with me, it's just like an ongoing thing. And
there is no off switch.
No, it's like a silent hum of stress in the background. And actually, we to actually have a, rather than it going up and down, like stress peaking.
Well, that inconsistency isn't the flow of how we're supposed to be going anyway. And, going back to our roots, like you said, is so important. And remembering, we weren't supposed to live this up, down lifestyle, really, because every mountain needs to go up and down, go down to come back up again. Sorry. So, you are allowed, remembering that going through those lows is okay. And it's okay to be vulnerable in those moments, because it will make you stronger, and it is such a learning process. What you go through in that time will only take you to the top of that mountain.
Absolutely. When you suffer, then that's when you're forced into presence and actually figuring out what you want to do next.
And it's all part of the evolution of how we were supposed to be. And I think, like you said, going back to our roots and going back to that way of living is so important in a way, and being able to incorporate our roots and switch it into that traditional way of living, I guess, into a more modernised scenario is important. We're not turning around saying that we have to all of a sudden start looking like the Flintstones.
Oh my gosh, flashbacks.
As fun as that would be, and I would love that.
Driving with our feet under the
incorporating that way of living into our... I think that's a major point of what I want to say on this journey as well. Like, I'm not all of a sudden expecting people to pack up their bags and go away, like we said before, but, incorporating things into your lifestyle, it is as simple as that. The simple little things that we do to ourselves and the planet is for the bigger impact of the evolution and future of ourselves and the planet.
So because when you talk about surfing, I can see the passion for it, and you always mention it, and it is almost going back to roots then, because it is just you. Okay, maybe a surfboard, but it's just you and the sea, and I think that is
the water...
what we miss a lot, the connection with just the world around us. I had a podcast recently with a monk, and he was mentioning how we just, obviously, even just wearing shoes, we're just... Okay, I know it's not realistic anymore, but like we never used to. We would just be touching the ground, like we would be grounded more.
It is so important, little things like that. Taking our shoe, this is going to sound weird, but our feet actually weren't made to fit into shoes. I read that as well. And our feet have now, the bone structure in our feet have actually become narrower because our feet were supposed to be wider. It's actually a really great band called Vivo Barefoot, and their whole technology behind their shoes is to make it feel like you're barefoot. That's the whole point of the title, Vivo Barefoot, and it allows for your shoe to actually stay in the structure of how our feet should be. And our feet should actually be in a more narrower structure than it is, but our feet have now tried to fit into... Conform, exactly. Even our feet are now trying to conform to what
God, what have we come to? But even like eating with your hands, things like that, just being in touch with the world
and
around
present.
us. Yes.
And really feeling what's around you. It doesn't, like I said, if you're in the city, great, walk through a park, smell the nature, smell the nature, smell the trees, and really take in what's around you. We live this rat race of we need to be here at this time and this is what I've got to do. Okay, when you're on your way to work, don't be looking down, look up. What is the cloud saying today?
Just put the phone away for a bit. You don't always have to distract yourself with it, basically.
Exactly.
No, I completely get that. So, on nature then. So, with the ocean pollution, so can you give us some actual insights on how you're seeing that unfold at the moment? Because obviously you're quite close to it and there's some of the causes that you're representing.
Yes.
So with like the environment and ocean pollution, how are you linked to that, and what do you see?
So a charity that is actually locally in Cornwall is a charity called Surfers Against Sewage. They are a charity that focus on keeping our beaches clean in the protection of our marine life, run by ocean activists as well.
So what do they actually do physically?
So they, as well as promoting the giving out facts of what's happening with ocean pollution, they also do annual beach cleans and beach cleanups. So they'll go out and actually actively clean up the beaches, which is something that I will be taking part in the next few months, doing a beach clean and trying to get the communities together to spread this awareness and tell the truth of what's really happening. Like I said before, it's estimated over 12 million tonnes of pollution is thrown into the ocean. And is that then going to affect with the marine life? And they're just trying to get across the impact of the simple things that we take for granted. When you come down on holiday to the beach and it's a family, I get it, we're all guilty of it in some ways. But the little things that we can do to help for the bigger impact of our future, you opt for your reusable water bottle, or don't go for the convenience in the supermarket with the plastic bags, take your own bag. Even things like this, the sun cream that you use, the chemicals that get washed off your face on your sun cream, go organic. Because
I never even have thought of that.
This is it. And a lot of people don't, but it's having more awareness and being more conscious of going organic, reusing and recycle. Recycling is so important. Opting for products that are biodegradable and use non-toxic materials. I'm a huge advocate of that, and I like to use my platform on Instagram to promote businesses like that. Even so simply, the yoga products that you're using, your yoga mat, use a non-toxic yoga mat. I've got one from a brand called Move Well, and they use technology in their mats and products that are all non-toxic and biodegradable and recyclable. So opting for those options, going organic, like I said, with your sun cream, because the chemicals are affecting the marine life, and people don't really think about those things. I mean, a few years ago, I probably wouldn't have even thought about sun cream myself. But having more of awareness and being more conscious, I think, is so important. And educating is the education. I've taken the time to educate myself, where in the past I've probably not had as much experience or education for the impact of our ocean and plastic pollution.
Yeah, I think education is a very key point, and I've mentioned it a few times.
It's one of the E's.
Yeah, one of the E's. And I think that I'm a bit far removed from, I don't have kids yet, or maybe, I don't know. Let's cut that bit out. I'm a bit far removed from like schools and things like that.
Don't say that.
I'm like 10 years older than you as well. Where was I? I think education needs to start young. So it needs to start from the schools. And I don't really know if that's something that they're kind of focusing on, but I'm hoping that it will get into the curriculum a little bit more, so where kids are a bit more aware.
It is, and I think that's really something that I want to get across as well as a topic, that it is educating the younger generations, bringing this new generation forward, making them more aware on, yes, it's convenient that all the technology that we have, but it's not your sole focus. It's not important. It's important to raise awareness and to create a voice for yourself, but for good. And it is the narrative on that can be seen as quite negative, but it can be used for so much good, and that's not talked about enough either. And educating our younger generations, like you said, on the importance of this. So there are schools that do annual beach cleans, and they do, I think it's called Beach School. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure on that though.
That
but
sounds
I think
like a school I would have liked to have gone to.
There is actually schools out there that do focus on. I have forgotten the name, but there is schools out there that do opt for that. If you're someone that doesn't, I struggled also in school, and at that time of my mental health, I also want to say, I struggled because I didn't, like I said before, I didn't really fit in the world that I lived in and the school that I was in, but also to the education system. I was never really someone that...
You were already aware maybe that it wasn't really the right type of education that we needed, I think. Because I think I agree.
System, I was too active. Let's put it like that. Yeah. Simply, I was too.
You need a bit more freedom, maybe, to expand your knowledge base rather than what was just thrown in front of you, which so many of us had.
I think it's really beautiful to see that there are some schools now that are focusing on educating the younger generations on nature, giving them more time out in those spaces. Yeah, and realising that it's okay that not all individuals can conform to the education system. It's so great that, there is those things in place, but some people don't work in that way, and that's okay. There is some beach cleaning school. They take the kids out and they do beach cleans. I myself would love to go and actively go and do talks in the schools to educate the younger generations and do anything I can. Like I said, I've done beach cleans in the past, and I aim to do more in the future, and to raise more awareness with the not just local charities but Beauty with a Purpose and Papyrus as well, and really get the awareness out to them.
Yeah, so where do you go from here? So you've got the Miss England semi-final coming up in April, I believe. And then if you move forward from that, you'll go through to the grand final as well?
Yep. So the semi-finals is the 7th of April. which is very exciting. But like I said, that's one day out of a whole year lifestyle that comes with Miss England. It's a great day to pay homage to the tradition that is the beauty pageant side of things, but it's then being able to have that honour to represent further into the process of the future to our planet and our society, and giving back to the people as well, which I think is really important. And then after the semi-finals, you get the finals on the 16th and 17th of May, and then that is when the Miss England will be crowned.
Amazing. So yeah, good luck with all of that.
Thank you. It's just an honour right now to be able to represent Newquay and represent my little surf town.
I can imagine. Yeah, putting them on the map a bit more.
Yeah.
So what are your I know you've mentioned so many things that you want to still do around this, but what are your aspirations moving even forward from that? I know you want to get into the kind of TV industry a bit more. So yeah.
So I have my throughout all of this and into the future, I really just want to use it as a way to still, whatever I do or in the future or wherever this takes me, it's still paying respect and staying true to myself, and that is what I want to do. You know, Newquay, at the end of the day, I feel so honoured to represent such a beautiful town that is fundamentally based on sustainable and ethical way of living. You know, majority of Newquay is conscious and aware of, you know, having charities like Surfers Against Sewage, having businesses that do use non-toxic products, having sustainable businesses that, you know, like coffee shops using reusable, there's a cup brand and they use reusable coffee cups that are recycled after. So
like
being able to
difference.
So being able to represent Newquay currently is beautiful, and being able to use that as a platform to expand and raise more awareness is really what I want to do on ocean and environmental pollution, and be a representation for women that it does, like I said before, it doesn't matter what sport or career you're choosing to do, you can achieve it too, and to the younger generations that whatever you're going through doesn't define you. And that is really what I want to take on throughout this journey and further, is empowering the empowerment of women in their careers in sports, while educating the younger generations and being the role model to the younger generations that you're not alone and it's okay to be vulnerable. If I can inspire or help someone with what I implicate into my daily routine or what I've been through, then I've done my job.
Yeah, amazing. I usually ask the guest at the end to kind of give a lasting message, but I think that is it really. And I think your key message, and definitely what I'm going to take from this, is you can write your own story. I mean, to a certain extent, but basically you can write your narrative 100%. And you don't have to conform to exactly what you've just been given. You can change that around to make it fit you. It's your story
to write, and you were put on this planet to write it. And you were also put on this planet to have a voice. So share it. Share what you're going through. Share what you're interested in. If you are someone that is struggling, it might feel overwhelming and sucked in, but you're not alone. And there are people that you can talk to, and there is places that, you know, you can go for help. You're not alone. There is people that also, if there's elements of, like I said, my routine or what I'm doing that can help inspire other people, then I've done my job. Because I really want to, being a surfer in a very male-dominated sport is really what inspired me to be a beach lifeguard and take surfing more seriously, because I am someone that, when I put my mind to something, I don't stop. And I told myself I knew I wanted to be a beach lifeguard, and that week I did train. It was just me and 4 men.
Right, yeah.
And that was a very funny week. And I did my training with Era Adventure down on Fishel Beach. Fishel Beach is an iconic beach. You know, we've had Kelly Slater come from Hawaii to surf there. There's board masters that goes on down there. There's loads of things happening that you know, is really cool in Newquay, and being able to pay homage back to that is really, really cool.
Great. Well, I've got some questions for you from a few listeners, but we've covered a couple of them, so I'm just going to go with the last one, which is the best one as well, from Marcus.
Thank you, Marcus.
And he's obviously taken this from the film I mentioned earlier. What is the one most important thing our society needs?
Oh.
World peace. I just had to say that.
World peace.
Yeah, thank you.
I think the most important thing that our society needs is to realise that you have a voice. Your dreams aren't out of reach. If they feel out of reach, there is things that you can incorporate into your life that will benefit. Like I said before, it's not about just packing up your bags and moving away, because it might look that way for how I did it, but I incorporated what I wanted to want. I incorporated things into my daily routine and lifestyle anyway by, you know, exposing our body, going into ice podding, going to your pod, walking through the park, adding these simple things into your daily routine. And the important thing for society is realising the empowerment, education and encouragement we can have when we give ourselves that self-time and self-awareness.
Brilliant.
And realising that you do have a voice, and it doesn't matter if it's male-dominated or whatever, you can still achieve what you want to achieve.
Yeah, and I think your 3 E's are going to inspire a lot of people listening.
Thank you.
So I'll definitely push that message out as well.
That's really
after
what
this.
I would say to Marcus, is the 3 E's.
Yeah.
You know, what I think society needs, whatever it is, whether it's podcasts, surfing, or if you're sat in an office, you know, I respect every industry. And like I said, I've got parents that are in 2 completely different industries to the one that I've chosen to create, and I still, you know, dabble into, you know, I put a toe in, you know,
so to speak, in the ocean. Yeah.
But, you know, it's incorporating things into our lifestyle and knowing, you know, what I think society needs is the 3 E's for the evolution of our planet. You know, the empowerment, encouragement and education for the evolution and future of not just ourselves and society, but the planet also.
Thank you. Thank you, Milla, so much. It's been a real pleasure to sit in front of you, and I really can't wait to see, you know, how your journey unfolds. I'll be watching all the Miss England and pageant stuff. I'm really excited to do that now.
It's been such an honour to be on here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks.